All right, Ecamm for Zoom is revolutionary. It's now changing the game for all Ecamm Live users who are on the Pro subscription and higher. Ecamm for Zoom allows you to bring in all your guests who are attendees on Zoom and bring them into your productions for more higher potent trainings into a Zoom webinar or a Zoom meeting, as well as live streaming all of your guests. And it's easy as joining Zoom for your guests. So let's go over to those settings here. Click on Ecamm Live and click on Preferences and go over to the last tab called Zoom. All right, the first option here says auto admit Zoom participants. This is a traditional Zoom setting where when you are creating a new meeting, are you going to allow them to be added into your call once you start a new call, or do you want to put them in the waiting room? So it's up to you how you have that selected. But typically I would always choose never, and then I will manually enable or disable the waiting room inside of the Zoom settings to allow people in. But you can go ahead and change this option if you would like to have that as a default when you start your Zoom calls through Ecamm for Zoom. Now, the second option here, auto add Zoom participants as Ecamm camera sources. So this option here has never, known participants, and always as well. So this is different from the first option in that when you have attendees who get into your Zoom meeting, right? This is using Ecamm for Zoom. When they join, are they going to be added as video sources immediately? Yes or no? Personally speaking, I like to click this or choose as never as the default. And the reason why is this. I, as a producer, want to manually select the people who are in my Ecamm meeting. Right? So I could have 50 people in that meeting, but I only want to choose 2 as my guest sources, my guest video feeds into Ecamm. Now you can have up to 8 people from that meeting join in as video sources. And if you select always, then what happens, it means is the first 8 people who join your Zoom call, they all get added as participants or video sources inside of Ecamm Live. You may or may not want that. That's really up to you. So you can go ahead and select this as whatever you desire as your preferences. Sometimes it's a little bit easier if you always know it's just going to be a couple or a few people, then go ahead and select that. Otherwise, more control is never. Known participants here is more or less anybody who's ever been accepted in to the meeting and then added as a participant. If the name is usually the same as before, Ecamm will say, oh yeah, I've had that name before. Yeah, add their video source. So this is kind of a neat way. If you always know that Joe Smith or Jane Smith are always joining all these different calls, you can always say, always let them in. But just knowing anybody you have ever let in before will also have that same option. Now, this next option here says Zoom capture mode, and you have live streaming or recording. Basically, because of privacy reasons and control methodologies that Zoom requires for this connection with Ecamm Live to work, you have to follow one of these 2 options. Now, if you choose the live streaming option, then what happens is you can go ahead and join any meeting. However, it is going to show in the participants Zoom window that this call is being live streamed, whether it is or not. So when you have these meetings, they need to know about that, and they're going to see a warning popping up on their screen when the video is added, their video source is added. It'll say this meeting is being live streamed, and they have to agree to it by hitting OK or clicking away and leaving the meeting itself. Now, if you go ahead and choose the recording option, the message is going to be different. It's called recording capture mode, and what happens is when you start your call this way and they're joined in, it says this meeting is being recorded. Leave meeting or OK. The recording and the streaming is pretty much the exact same thing. It's just that the message is going to be different. So if you know that you're not going to be live streaming this call over social media, different platforms, again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. If you're not going to be live streaming, choose the recording option, because your attendees will feel a little bit awkward if you have the live streaming option enabled and you're not live streaming, but they think they're being live streamed. So just choose the recording option from there. However, if you are actually doing the live stream, then you'll want to select that option because these 2 different messages. If you want to find out more information about this specific feature or this live streaming capture mode, go ahead and click the link below in the description, and that will take you directly to Ecamm's support page that will differentiate these 2 options for you. This next option is really, really cool. Include a Zoom active speaker camera. Now, by default, this is disabled. However, if you enable it, what this does is it adds a new video source to your switcher. And that video source says Zoom active speaker. So when you add that overlay into your scene or as a full screen video source, what ends up happening is if you have multiple people who have their video sources added as guests inside of your Ecamm for Zoom configuration, whoever is speaking will show up in that video. And I'm going to go through some settings and examples in a little bit more detail in other videos. But this typically is going to help you a lot because if you have, let's say, a podcast and you have yourself on one side and some guests on the other side of your screen, you can automatically switch between who is speaking, which really honestly saves you a huge bunch of time on switching scenes or video sources. Now, the next option here says show me as an active speaker, and when you enable that, you can choose the different camera sources. This basically says, I want to be part of that same scene. So if you know that it's you and two other guests and you're part of that one view, right? So it's either an active speaker overlay or an active speaker full screen view, and you want to be part of that switching, that automatic switching. Every time you speak, the camera will switch to you automatically. That's also a really, really cool feature. So you can go ahead and enable that if you want to be part of that automatic switching. The next section here says Zoom audio processing. You've got a couple of options. Enable it or disable. Now, when you choose enable, this basically says here, configure your audio profile in Zoom's settings. So you would go into your Zoom settings and then go to the audio tab. And in there, you're going to select your echo cancellation mode or your audio processing mode, maybe musician mode if you want to play music or sound effects from Ecamm Live through your Zoom meeting itself so that all of the attendees can hear the music. Or do you want to disable that and override all of the settings from Zoom and have Ecamm Live control all of that? So essentially, basically means audio processing, yes or no. For most people, I would say leave it enabled and you can manually select that option inside of your Zoom settings. And that way, I would say for me, even I'm more used to controlling the audio processing on that application versus using the default from Ecamm Live. So you can choose that, play with that definitely, and see which preference you have for your setting. The next option says add Zoom chat and Q&A questions to the Ecamm comments and reactions window. So you know that in the chat window when you are live streaming to YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Instagram, those connections that are direct, not an RTMP connection, they can receive chat comments into your Ecamm Live chat panel, and you can add that as an overlay to your scene. Now, do you also want the Zoom chats to be able to be added there? Well, if you do, you're going to go ahead and leave this checked. So you're going to enable that option. And every time you have a comment come in from YouTube, you will see the person's avatar or gravatar image, their comment, and then a little tiny YouTube icon beside their gravatar. And if the comment comes in from Zoom, you'll see the exact same thing, but instead of the YouTube icon, you'll see a little tiny Zoom icon. It's kind of a neat way to show where these comments are coming from based on the platform that you're using. So you're going to go ahead and select that if you want to be able to bring in those Zoom comments into your overlays. And this last option here is for very advanced users. It says manual audio mode. If you are using external audio devices that you want to separately manage the Zoom audio in, such as a Rodecaster Pro 2 or a Mixcast or a Tascam, those more advanced multi-channel audio mixers, then you're going to go ahead and enable this only if you know what you're doing. If you do not, or if you're new to that site, even if you own the equipment, I highly suggest that you do not use this option. This is an advanced feature, and it was requested by very advanced users, and even myself, I can kind of get confused every so often if I'm starting to troubleshoot some audio challenges. So generally speaking, most of the people are going to have this disabled or unchecked. Unless you want to play around and manually route your audio, you're going to have this checked. And as long as you know what you're doing, you should be fine. I hope you're really enjoying this Ecamm Live Masterclass because this has been an absolute joy for me to actually create. And the reason why is because I just love Ecamm Live and I love the whole aspect of content creation, and I hope that you do as well. So please go ahead, leave some comments below. Let me know how you feel about this. Let me know if you have other questions about the specific topic that I'm sharing in this video. And Another thing that I really want you to do right now is I want you to go ahead and scan this QR code or click the link in the description below, because this is where I'm going to be housing not only just this Ecamm Live Masterclass, but a lot of cool extras that are not going to be found on YouTube. So you have to register for absolutely for free in order to grab this content. It's in my member portal. So go ahead, scan the QR code or click the link in the description, and I will see you on the other side. Now, back to the regular show. All right, and that is it. That's the last tab of all of the Ecamm Live preferences. In the next part of the video series, I'm now going to go over what all of the different windows mean inside of Ecamm Live. So you see all these windows around this preview window that I'm currently in. These are all different Ecamm Live panels or windows. And in the next series, I'm going to go through each and every single one of these and explain how they work and what they actually do for your recorded content and your live streams.